Hey guys, Can Opener Dude here on the PBE, and today we're going to be taking a look at some of the potential item changes, item reworks, and new items that are currently on the PBE, and basically just take a look at all of them and see how they're going to affect the game going forward. So I want to stress here that this is all very, very early, like literally this stuff came out yesterday, so we don't know how much of this is actually going to hit live, but so far it's looking like it's going to be really cool, so let's dive right in here. All right, so we've got what looks like about 20 new items, including one returning item. So let's dive right in here at these guys. The first one up is the refillable potion. So you're only allowed to carry one type of healing potion. So that's kind of a new mechanic here. So if you choose the refillable potion, you can't get the hunter's potion or the corrupting potion or, regular health potions. So what this one does is it consumes a charge to restore 100 health over 10 seconds, holds up to 2 charges. So it's basically like a lesser version of the old crystalline flask, which is removed now, and I will get to what items have been removed. Um, Now it does build into some stuff. It actually builds into both the hunter's potion and the corrupting potion. And since you now start with 500 gold, you don't actually need to start with this guy. You could start with either one of these if you really wanted to. But if you want to start with this plus something else, you can as well. So there's that. It's kind of like a very basic consumable, rechargeable potion thing. Next, we got the Hunter's Talisman. This is a new Hunter's item. What am I saying? This is a new jungle item that works in conjunction with Hunter's Machete. So it gives 150% mana regeneration, and damaging a monster steals 20 health over 5 seconds. Killing a large monster grants 15 bonus experience. So this is going to be good for as the starting jungle item for junglers who need more mana in their clears, who are going to be spamming abilities. So ability-based junglers, caster-based junglers. And this one does build into the 3 jungle items. So I just want to stress that there are 3 on the public test realm right now. As of right now, Poacher's Knife and Ranger's Trailblazer have been removed. Tracker's Knife has replaced Poacher's Knife, and Ranger's Trailblazer has just been completely removed, as far as we can tell right now. That's what it's looking like right now. And so what we can do here is if we look at this, we see that it's actually Hunter's Machete and Hunter's Talisman. They build together into the jungle item. So that's what it's looking like right now, that you do need to get both, but you can start with one and then just build straight into the jungle item later. It does, however, bump the total combined cost of the jungle item up a little bit, which may be a bit concerning, but we'll have to see. Next up is the Hunter's Potion. This is obviously a jungler version of the potion. It consumes a charge to restore 60 health and 35 mana over 8 seconds. It can hold up to 5 charges, and again, refills when you visit the shop. You kill a large monster, you get a charge. So this is refillable both at the shop and when you're in the jungle. So that's going to be really interesting. It'll let you, if you're really heavy clear jungler, but you lack sustain, then this could very much help out. So I imagine this being very good for devourer junglers that don't have any innate sustain, which there's not a whole lot of them. But Kale would probably do very well with this. Shyvana, if she needed the health, but I don't really think she does. Champions like Warwick, obviously, and Tryndamere won't, but they could if they really wanted to. This doesn't actually build into anything. It's just, it's a consumable potion item. Next up is the Dark Seal. This is a very interesting item because this has actually replaced the Amplifying Tome in the recipe for Magi Soul Stealer. So what it does is it gives you 15 ability power, 25% increased healing from potions, and 100 mana. Now, increased healing from potions, that's completely new. There's never been an item that's done that before. And it's interesting because of its unique passives kind of at odds with that. You get 2 ability power per glory. Now, what the glory is explained in the next unique passive, which is grants 3 glory for a champion kill or 1 glory for an assist, up to 10 glory total. And you lose 6 on death, a flat 6. So that's interesting. It's like a mini Magi's, and it builds into the traditional Magi's here, which now basically I'll get to it when I go through the major reworks, but it functions on the glory system as well instead of just a generic stack system. But it's interesting to me that they give the Dark Seal increased healing from potions. So it really feeds into this very aggressive play style, like you just go all in and constantly try to kill your opponent. So I'm wondering how it's gonna work on champions maybe like Deanna that just have to constantly go ham once they reach level 6, or even champions that have like a very strong level 1 or a level 2 power spike. There's not a whole lot of AP champions that have those, but I'm sure people could probably think of a couple and think of some really cool ways to use this item, though it would advertise to the entire enemy team, hey, this person wants to build Magi's, go gank them. Next we have Cull. And now this item, it's obviously targeted to be for farming marksmen, but I also think it'd be kind of cool on Nasus. It gives 5 attack damage, 3 life on hit, so it's an on-hit lifesteal effect, but it's not lifesteal. It's a separate effect that gives you 3 life. And its passive is killing a minion grants 1 additional gold. Killing 100 minions grants an additional 300 bonus gold immediately and disables the passive. So this is going to be interesting for champions that want to farm a lot and farm in lane. Notice it says minion, it doesn't say monster, so it has to be lane minions as far as I'm aware. So that's going to be interesting for champions like Nasus, because, you just take it top lane if you want to be aggressive and just, constantly farm, farm, farm. You get gold and the stacks. It could also be used for champions that want to farm well into late game, but don't want to pressure as much early. So a traditional Vayne build, a traditional Jinx build, and maybe even some of the new ADCs like Kog'Maw, who wants to scale heavily into late game, Tristana, who wants to scale heavily into late game, and Caitlyn, if you're kind of behind, you just pick up Cull so that you can plink away from max range and not have to engage in order to get a lot of gold. Corrupting Potion. This is the last of the basic potion types, other than the consumable one. And it says consumes a charge to restore 150 health and 50 mana over 12 seconds and grants Touch of Corruption during that time. It holds 3 charges. Now, Touch of Corruption, it says damaging spells and attacks burn enemy champions for 15 to 30 magic damage over 3 seconds. So, what this means is that you use this maybe as a pokey support or as someone who goes all in mid lane or even top lane, I guess. And it grants a burn on a potion, which is interesting. So, like, while you're healing up, you're dealing damage to them with your basic attacks and abilities, and they're taking damage from that. So I find that very interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see how people use that and what champions they utilize it with. I want to try it on Sona because I think it'd be hilarious. That's just me. So we'll have to see how that works out. And it does scale up with levels, so it's not going to be completely useless late game, but you'll probably want to sell it eventually. But mid game, it'd be kind of cool. Next up is Kerchay's Shard. This is gives 15% attack speed and actually builds out of a dagger, which is lower in price now. And this actually replaced Avarice Blade, which has also been removed. And what it says is that moving and attacking will make an attack energized. And your energized attacks deal 30 bonus magic damage on hit. So it's basically a mini Static Shiv, and that's why they have it built into the Static Shiv. Static Shiv now inherits this energized mechanic. Static Shiv basically still does the same thing. It's just reworded and basically builds out Kerchay's Shard instead of Avarice Blade. Next is Executioner's Calling, which has made it back into the game as an only attack damage item in its component now. And physical damage inflicts grievous wounds. So, grievous wounds is back. It builds straight out of a longsword and actually builds into another item, Mortal Reminder, which we'll get into in a second. And basically, it's just grievous wounds. So, anytime you're facing someone with really heavy lifesteal or really heavy healing, you just pull out that Executioner's Calling and sock it to him. We got Giant Slayer here, which grants 10 attack damage, and it also grants up to 10% bonus physical damage against enemy champions with greater maximum health than you. So you get an additional 1% damage per 50 health difference up to 500 health distance. So this is going to be great for ADCs going up against tanks, and I think that's awesome to me, because that means it finally gives ADCs a chance to actually stand up against these juggernauts that are otherwise just completely able to stomp all over people, and that actually builds into another bigger item longer down the line as well. All right, here we got Joram's Fist, and this gives 15 attack damage, 150 health, and killing a unit grants 5 maximum health. This bonus stacks up to 30 times. So altogether, that gives you an additional 150 health for a total of 300 health that this item can give you. And this one then builds into Sterix Gauge, Frozen Mallet, and Titanic Hydra, all of which have more than 300 health on them, so you won't lose that extra health you got from the passive when you upgrade it, thankfully. Caulfield's Warhammer grants 25 attack damage and 10 cooldown reduction. This is basically replacing Brutalizer, because Brutalizer, surprise, surprise, has been removed. So there's no more elite item, unfortunately, and this builds into everything that Brutalizer used to build into, plus a few extras. So all the warrior enchantments build out of this. Yomu's builds out of this. A new item called Death Stance, which I'll get to, builds out of this. They actually re-added it to the Black Cleaver recipe, which I think is very cool. And then Essence Reaver now builds out of this as well. Essence Reaver has been reworked significantly as well. Here's Serrated Dirk, which gives 20 attack damage, 10 armor penetration, and after killing any unit, your next basic attack or single target spell deals plus 15 damage. So this is kind of an early game item, but this also kind of occupies the space where not Bloodthirster, Brutalizer occupied as well. So Caulfield's Warhammer and Serrated Dirk now kind of split that, and they now both occupy a single piece of Brutalizer's job. So no longer is Brutalizer just this one item that's super good. It's now split over 2 items, so you have to choose which one you want to build. You can obviously build both, but because you need both in order to build into Yomu's, but you have to choose which one you want to build first. We also get Staff of Flowing Water back. It's basically the same thing, a little bit changed, but more or less it's the same idea as what it was on Black Market Brawlers. And so it gives 40 ability power, 25 magic resist, 50% base mana regen, the mana font, and the movement speed and mana regen in the river. And so this builds out a Chalice and an Amp Tome. So that's going to be a good item. It's going to be kind of hard to see how this item works with a lot of champions, though, because, junglers run through the river, mid lanes will occasionally roam through the river, and supports go through the river, but none of them live in the river the way that utilizing that really will need. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works. Next up, we've got these 3 items: the Eye of the Oasis, the Eye of the Equinox, and the Eye of the Watchers. Now, these are items that build out of your tier 2 support item. So, for instance, Eye of Oasis builds out of Nomad's Medallion plus a Sight Stone. Eye of the Equinox builds out of Targon's Brace plus a Sight Stone. And Eye of the Watcher builds out of Frostfang and a Sight Stone. So what they do is they operate as a Sight Stone, and they also operate as like an enhanced version of the tier 2 support item. So for instance, Eye of Oasis gives you health, mana regen, health regen, and it also gives you the passive get gold and health when something dies near you effect, in addition to placing wards. Eye of the Equinox gives you the execute minions to give your friend gold, while also gives the warding, and it gives health and health regen. Eye of the Watcher gives health, ability power, gold per 10, mana regen, and the hit something to gain mana from them. effect in addition to the warning. So what this means is that you have a choice now. Say if you build Targon's Brace, now you have a choice. Do you want to get Eye of the Equinox, which then gives you your warding Sightstone plus your support item in one convenient item that then allows you to place wards from that and give the execute passive, but it doesn't give you Face in the Mountains shield. So do you want the shield plus have to buy the wards separately with a Sightstone into a Ruby Sightstone, which Ruby Sightstone has been reworked, we'll talk about that. Or do you want to build this item, not get the shield, but have it all condensed into one item so that you can have other items? So that's kind of the choice that the supports now face. Next up is Mortal Reminder, and this is actually building out of Last Whisper, which has been reworked, and Executioner's Calling. It gives 40 attack damage, physical damage, inflicts grievous wounds, and it gives 40% bonus armor penetration. So it's kind of occupying the space that the old Last Whisper occupied while also giving that grievous wounds. So it's kind of placed as a tank killer, but not as a straight up health tank killer, but kind of as the regen armor tank killer. Then we have Rapid Fire Cannon, which is, I think, probably the most ridiculous of the new items. It gives attack speed, crit strike, and movement speed, so it's kind of occupying similar space to the old Phantom Dancer and Static Shiv, and it also builds out a Kerchase, Shard, and Zeal, but instead of when your attacks get energized, you do like a lightning attack, it gains bonus range and bonus magic damage. So what we saw from the image, if you guys remember the original image that we saw when all these changes were announced, was Tristana sitting outside of the tower range and having an auto attack indicator that showed that she could hit the tower from there. So what that tells us is that that's what Rapid Fire Cannon does, is it increases your range to a point where long-range ADCs like Caitlyn and Tristana should be able to hit the tower from outside of the range and really siege up very well. And this will be great for ADCs that want to stay on the outside of fights and just kind of opportunistically attack inwards. We also have Lord Dominic's Regards. This again builds out of the new Last Whisper plus that Giant Slayer that we talked about, and it basically just combines the two. It gives you the 15% physical damage against champions with higher maximum health, so it gives you that quote-unquote Giant Slayer passive plus the quote-unquote Last Whisper passive. So it combines two items and basically gives you this kind of they're super armor health tanky, but they don't have a lot of healing. Build Lord Dominic's Regards. If they're super armor tanky and they've got a lot of healing, like say a Mundo, build Mortal Reminder. So you got some options here. And then we come to Death's Dance. This one gives 65 attack damage, 10% cooldown reduction, and here's the thing, is these passives are really interesting. Dealing physical damage heals for 12% of the damage dealt. So it's kind of like lifesteal, only better. And then 20% of the damage taken is dealt as a bleed effect over 5 seconds instead. So basically that means you take 20% less damage, assuming that you can then lifesteal the damage that you're going to take as a bleed. So it allows ADCs to be less able to be bursted by assassins, which I think is going to be very great on both ADCs and melee attack damage carries. So Tryndamere, Master Yi, even Aatrox may benefit very well from this item. So I just checked my time and we are at 21 minutes into this video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to make another video going over the major rework section of the items. And I'm going to place a link in the description with all of the price and small stat adjustments, because as you can see here, there is a lot of them. So I'm not going to bother going over those. So I'm going to make another video going over the major reworks, and look for that on TCA here. Other than that, thanks for watching. Have a great day.